डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब आंबेडकर ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी.
Namaskar students, I, Dr. Jaini Shah from Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar Open University welcome you all to the video lecture series of Bachelor of Arts in English Literature. Friends, this particular session is from second year BA, paper number 3, History of English Literature. Unit number 12, the title of the unit is Augustan Age, its major writers and literary works. Friends, this session is in continuation to the session on the Augustan Age, its historical background and characteristics, where an introduction to the Augustan Age is provided along with its historical background, social characteristics and literary characteristics, as well as the literary genres. This particular session will help you to know the major writers of the Augustan Age, along with relating the specific works of these writers, and you will be able to appreciate the features of the literature of Augustan Age. Friends, as we proceed further, we will discuss the major poets, major essayists, novelists and historians with their major works of Augustan Age. Here is a brief introduction to the literature of the Augustan Age. The Augustan Age, friends, is an important age in English literature. There was an increase in the number of literary writers and many genres were popular in that time. It has been called the age of prose because of the writers at the beginning of this age. Prose writings of this age made progress in narration, description, exposition, speculation, argument, etc. Alongside, the age witnessed the establishment of the periodical essay and made possible and popular due to the invention of the printing press. Political satire also reached new heights. In poetry, writers moved towards a strict following of rules, of rhyme and meter, and of placing how above the what of the matter. So basically it was about appearance and reason. Though there had been attempts at prose fiction as early as the Elizabethan age, the actual development of the novel as a literary genre took place in Augustan age. The novel form continues to this day in almost the same form as was emerged in the Augustan age. This age was also a great age for letter writing. As letter writing is an art that can be cultivated only in an unhurried age of ease and leisure, this age seemed to be ideal for this purpose. The letters of this century, both by their bulk and quality, constitute an important stock of literature. The drama of this age has nothing to commend itself and was indeed a dull and dreary affair. Drama declined, but dramatic activity continued. This age produced actors and actresses who seem to be better known than the dramatists of this age. Noticeable in the drama of this period is the French influence. Now friends, let us begin with the poetry of Augustan age. The poetry of the 18th century was as different from the previous age as it can be, that is, the Restoration age poetry, as the poetry of the Romantic age would be. The split from Romanticism seems complete and the ideals of classicism begin to reign supreme. In no genre is the triumph of classicism seen more fully than in poetry. The lyric almost disappears, and whatever little of it remains is of a light and artificial nature and a pale reflection of the Caroline poetry. The ode still survives in the Pindaric form. The satiric type of poetry is seen in great measure and is of high quality. It is not, however, of the standard of Dryden. Satire tends to be lighter, brighter, but more cynical. In addition to the heroic couplet, the octosyllabic couplet was becoming popular. Another development in satire was the epistolary form of the satire. Narrative poetry is of considerable bulk in this age and contains some of the best productions of this period. There is visible a slight revival of the ballad and some poor imitations of earlier ballads. The artificial type of the pastoral was highly popular. Some reasons for this may be the air of rusticity it gave to many compositions. It described the city life, the country life. It was considered to be elegant, it was easily written, and it had the appeal of the ancients. Now let us look at the major writers and their works of Augustan age. First one is Alexander Pope. Friends, the most important poet of this age was undoubtedly Alexander Pope. As a poet, he was deeply affected by the experiences of his life, which included his physical weaknesses, his character, which seemed a mass of contradictions, the mental agony caused by the taunts and sneers of his enemies, the rivalry for poetic fame, an animosity which was intensely personal and vindictive, and it gave to his satirical portraits a vigor and incisiveness which have indeed made his poetry immortal. Pope's works may be divided into two groups, earlier group and the later group. In the earlier group, we have his pastorals, the Rape of the Lock, and his translations of Homer, while the later group consists of the Dunciad and the satires in the epistles. Friends, the pastorals were published in 1709, and pastorals are based on classical models. The characters and scenery seem to lack vigor and reality. However, the work is important as an experiment in verse technique. His medium was the heroic couplet, and he handles it with great metrical skill. Variation of speed and tone as well as delicacy of touch is visible. The rich description is loaded with epithet and the diction is often artificial. Now, The Rape of the Lock, published in 1714, is a mock heroic poem. Friends, mock heroic epic is a genre which has a treatment of epic poem, but the subject matter is not as heroic as epic poem. Pope's The Rape of the Lock satirizes the fashionable society of the 18th century. Supposedly written to patch up a serious quarrel which arose between two aristocratic families when Lord Peter cut off a lock of hair from a beautiful maid, Arabella Fermor. It is around this story that Pope is able to weave an entire poem in the epic tradition. He succeeds in satirizing with a most delicate and lively fancy the fashions and foibles of polite aristocratic society. He introduces sylphs and gnomes instead of gods and goddesses, and the poem is certainly one of the most perfect mock epics in the English language and English literature. His shorter poems of the period, like Eloisa to Abelard and Elegy to an Unfortunate Lady, are interesting because they are shorter and only poems written by Pope directly on the theme of love. They can be considered as expressions of passion and pathos. Pope's translation of Homer received a mixed response. Though many of his contemporaries were happy to read a contemporary translation, it is considered faulty as a translation because Pope had no sound knowledge of Greek language and may have been led into errors by his reference to earlier translations. At the same time, it is a brilliant poem which is fast moving and full of eloquent speeches, even when far removed from the vigor of the original. It can be said that Pope had only one dress to clothe all subjects, which was the highly artificial dress of the merchandised couplet and sophisticated wit. Pope's The Dunciad was a response to Theobald's criticism of Pope's edition of Shakespeare. The Dunciad was a war of wit against dullness. Infuriated by the criticism against him, Pope first made Theobald the hero of Dunciad, but in the later edition substituted him with Cibber, who had been appointed the poet laureate. The satire is undoubtedly brilliant in its scorching abuse, but critics have pointed out that Pope need not have wasted his poetic talent for the gratification of personal dispute. Though inspired by Dryden's Macflecknoe, Pope's Dunciad is generally considered to be inferior than Dryden's work. The satires and epistles were the last important works of Pope and were written in imitation of Horace. Partly satirical and partly didactic, the two most famous ones are Essay on Man and Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot. Essay on Man is probably the most quoted of Pope's poems and consists of 4 epistles. According to Pope, the purpose of this poem was to vindicate the ways of God to man. Most critics believe that except in form, it is not poetry. It is found to consist of numerous literary ornaments without any solid structure of thought. Epistle to Dr. Arbuthnot was the prologue to the satires and is considered one of Pope's most brilliant satires mixed with autobiography. It contains the famous satirical portrait of Edison in the character of Atticus. In summing up Pope as a poet, it is clear that he remained unchallenged as the greatest till the Augustan age. However, both in subject and style, his poems are limited, but his work is indeed powerful and effective. A study of his technique shows his meticulous attention to the right word at the right place. We see correctness and finish in his use of heroic couplet. As a verse satirist, he certainly is as immortal as Dryden. The house of poetry has many mansions, and one is certainly reserved for Pope, is said by some critic. Worthy of mention is also a poet called Robert Burns, the Scottish poet, and also William Blake, whose Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience reveal a variety of spontaneity and lyrical quality. Other poets of Augustan age who deserve a mention are Matthew Prior, John Gay, Edward Young, Thomas Parnell, etc. Friends, Oliver Goldsmith also wrote his poems within the framework of the classical school and also succeeded in infusing his poetry with nature, feeling and humor. His best known poetic works are, you may also know, The Traveller and The Deserted Village. Now, along with Pope and his contemporaries, it is necessary to look at the poets who followed. Since no watertight division of ages is possible, let us now look at some of these poets. James Thomson, who is sometimes credited with having started a school of poetry opposed to that of Pope, is best known for his poetry Seasons, which got him immediate success and fame. In 4 books of Seasons, the poem describes the 4 seasons in blank verse and is remarkable for the poet's minute observation. Then John Dyer, he was inspired by mountain scenery which is seen in his work Grongar Hill. Further, William Collins, he is famous for his odes written in different lyrical measures, the best known work being the Ode to Evening. Then we have Thomas Gray, who wrote very little, but his work, his poetry, Elegy written in a country churchyard, is very famous and is enough to rate him along with the great poets in the English language. In this poem, Gray produces a symphony that strikes a sympathetic chord in every human heart. This is achieved by the truth and sincerity of sentiments, classic restraint, choice, yet simple diction, as well as the music of the elegiac quatrain. Now friends, let us have a look at the prose of Augustan age. Journalism had grown considerably during the last decade of the 17th century, and there was a plentiful supply of newspapers in the rule of Queen Anne. Some of them gave political news, purveyed social gossip, and discussed current topics. Some gave importance to social criticism with a moral and educational aim. They attempted to instruct the public on what to think. Periodicals such as the Tatler, the Spectator were the important ones, followed by the Rambler. Friends, periodical is a new literary form that emerged during the early part of the 18th century, came out regularly in affordable publications, and were only 2 to 3 pages in the length. The periodical essay, which flourished for only about 50 years, according to Johnson, it presented general knowledge appropriate for circulation in common talk. With the increase in middle class readers, these periodicals became very popular. Because of the brevity of individual items and the variety of its contents, the periodical essay played a significant role in such periodicals presenting commentary on politics, religion, society, and many other important matters. The formal properties of the periodical essay seemed to be largely defined through the practice of John Addison and Richard Steele. These two wrote with such effectiveness and cultivated such attention in their readers that their writings in the two periodicals, the Tatler and the Spectator, served as the models for periodical writing in the next few decades. The Tatler began in 1709 and lasted for about 2 years, after which came the Spectator, which was a collaboration between Addison and Steele. The moral and educational purpose of this periodical was explicitly stated by Addison when he said that it was his ambition to bring philosophy out of closets and libraries, schools and colleges, to dwell in clubs and assemblies, at tea tables and coffee houses. This was made possible by periodicals. Further, Richard Steele and Joseph Addison, as originator of the Tatler and co-author of the Spectator, Steele has contributed greatly to the development and popularity of the periodical essay. It is impossible to separate the work of Addison and Steele in these periodicals, but the majority of critics believe that the more original parts, the characters, the thoughts, are largely Steele's creation. To Addison fell the responsibility of polishing the work, perfecting the essay, and of adding that touch of humor which contributed in great measure to their lasting popularity. The Tatler and the Spectator are indeed the beginning of the modern essay and their studies of human character, as exemplified in Sir Roger de Coverley, seem to be a preparation of the modern novel. The essays present the best picture of the new social life of England. They advanced the art of literary criticism to a new height, and they gave us delightful characters to ponder upon. In style, these essays show the growing perfection of the English language, for as Dr. Johnson rightly says, whoever wishes to attain an English style, familiar but not coarse, and elegant but not ostentatious, must give his days and nights to the volumes produced by Addison. The periodical essay continued to grow in the essays of Goldsmith, Dr. Johnson, Swift, etc. Now friends, let us have a look at the novel form in the Augustan age. In addition to other major achievements of the age, the novel as a literary form is an important milestone. Though other genres like the epic, the romance, and drama were first produced in other nations, the novel was specifically born in England. The precursors of the novel can be traced to a collection of tales called the Greek romances of the 2nd to 6th centuries, the Canterbury Tales, Bacon's The New Atlantis, The Pilgrim's Progress, etc. However, the modern novel probably can be traced to the publication of Richardson's Pamela in 1740. In this age, increase in the reading public, a powerful middle class led to writers moving away from romances and tales of heroic valor to the everyday lives of common people. The major novelists of this age are, the first one among them is Daniel Defoe. His novel Robinson Crusoe generally heads the list of early novels and is one of the few books which held its popularity for almost 200 years. The charm of the story is its intense reality and in the succession of thoughts, feelings, and incidents which every reader feels is true to his life. Some critics believe that Crusoe represents the whole of human society. Then the second novelist is Jonathan Swift. Swift's most famous work is Gulliver's Travels. It is a satire on man and his institutions, written in 4 parts. The last part shows Swift's bitterness and misanthropy. By a strange quirk of fate, the novel has become a classic for children. Its chief merit is that it is an absorbing tale of adventure of Gulliver. A Tale of Tub and The Battle of the Books are 2 of his other important works. Then come to Samuel Richardson. Friends, he is credited with having written the first modern novel, which is an epistolary novel. Friends, epistolary novel is a novel written in the form of letters. Pamela or Virtue Rewarded, which is a series of letters telling of the trials, tribulations, and the final happy marriage of an unbelievably sweet maiden, is among the major novels of the age. His success at that time was enormous. It is also considered sentimental, grandiloquent, and wearisome. His second novel, Clarissa, which ran into 8 volumes, was also received with great enthusiasm. He told the story of human life, told it from within. Next novelist is Henry Fielding. His first novel, Joseph Andrews, was inspired by the success of Clarissa and began as a burlesque of the false sentimentality and the conventional virtues of Richardson's heroine. However, the story is of a vagabond and the novelist tells it with the aim of laughing men out of their follies. He is direct, vigorous, hilarious, and coarse to the point of vulgarity. He wrote other novels, of which Tom Jones is the most important one. Fielding must be regarded as a great artist of realistic fiction and is indeed the founder of the modern novel. Further, Tobias Smollett. Smollett lacked Fielding's genius and seems to crowd his pages with the horrors and brutalities which are sometimes mistaken for realism. He is best known for 3 works: Roderick Random, Peregrine Pickle, and Humphrey Clinker. He models his novels on Don Quixote, trying to follow the picaresque novel which was very characteristic of that age. The works of Lawrence Sterne are the reverse of those of Smollett. For the Sterne, letter was given to coarse vulgarities and the former to whims and vagaries and sentimental tears. Sterne's 2 important works are Tristram Shandy and A Sentimental Journey through France and Italy. The first was never finished even after 9 volumes, and in the second the reader is never sure how much has been taken or adapted from other writers. Then friends, next up is Oliver Goldsmith. His only novel, The Vicar of Wakefield, gives to home life an enduring romantic interest. In this simple story of common life, Goldsmith seems to have accomplished three noteworthy results. He has made human fatherhood almost a divine thing. He has glorified moral sentiments, and in the character called Dr. Primrose, he has created a striking and enduring figure who seems almost like a personal acquaintance rather than a character from a book. Now friends, having this idea of novels, let us look at the prose writers and the historians of this age. This age also witnessed prose writings other than the novel and the essay. For example, historians like Edward Gibbon with his work called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, David Hume with his work called A Treatise of Human Nature, William Robertson with his work The History of Scotland deserve a special mention. James Boswell's biography, The Life of Samuel Johnson, ranks as one of the best biographies written in English language. Edmund Burke's philosophical writing called A Vindication of Natural Society and his political work called Conciliation with the Colonies show all the devices of the orator and are fired by an impassioned imagination. So friends, with this session on the major writers and works of the Augustan age, you will be able to understand the reasons for the growth of these genres and analyze the various genres which were popular during the Augustan age. Friends, here are some of the questions to check your progress. You may attempt to write these answers, which will give you a clearer idea on the topic that is discussed now. Further, friends, here are some of the references which you can take up for further reading. The first one is A Critical History of English Literature, Volume 1 and Volume 2 by David Deutsches. Second is A Compendious History of English Literature by R.D. Trivedi, as well as English Literature by W.J. Long. And below are some of the links to the open sources available freely on the internet, which may be helpful references and resources for you. So friends, thank you for watching the video. I hope it has helped you in understanding the Augustan age from the perspective of history of English literature, along with the major genres emerging in the Augustan age and the major writers of the Augustan age. So friends, thank you, goodbye, and see you around next time.
Swadhyaya